I know you talk about Flywheels a lot. You write about Flywheels a lot, both on the creator side to a large extent in the ConvertKit side. So I want to pull your string on some of these things and just curious sort of where you got the ideas and how you start to incorporate them in like day-to-day management of ConvertKit.
So first, I think Flywheels is something that people talk about and they don't know what it means. And so I actually like to step back and just break down what a flywheel actually is. Because I think it's, you read it in some article that got published once, or like Jim Collins talks about it, Flywheels and Good to Great. That's where I first heard about them. But it's like, yeah, flywheels. Like I taught a workshop the other day and I was like, who could actually explain what a flywheel was? And like 2 hands out of 100 went up, and I was like, all right.
It's not just a circle with arrows. Like there's a deeper metaphor here. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And flywheels are useful for all kinds of things. Like sometimes we'll talk about one example and people are like, well, but flywheels are used in cars and, all of this stuff. Like, and it's like, yeah, so it's a way to store energy. I was actually listening to Elon Musk's biography yesterday on my run, and they were talking about like their ideas for using flywheels inside of the early Tesla cars, and it's like, yeah, they're used for all kinds of stuff. But my first introduction to flywheels came from actually that trip to South Africa and Lesotho that I was mentioning with Mission Aviation Fellowship in 2008. We were working at this orphanage in Maseru, which is the capital city of Lesotho. Population maybe 2.5 million, I think. So good sized city, but not like the infrastructure was not that great. They had electricity, but it would, like I was there for 2 weeks and it went out. Not every day, but close to it. So as we're putting in the well, we knew we didn't want to do an electric pump on this well. And we also knew that a hand pump would be a lot of work for 100 or 200 kids to rely on at this orphanage for water. And so Jason, who was leading the trip, who's a flight instructor, very mechanically inclined, he lived in Africa for 20 years. He was the person where when some appliance that someone had brought from the US broke, like the blender, he would go like machine the new part, like some plastic part that broke. He would go machine a new one in the airplane hangar and all their stuff, and then replace it. And so whenever they left, everyone was like, oh, we want Jason's stuff because we know that it all broke and we got replaced with a better version. And so we're, what's the plan? What are we going to put on this? And he's like, oh, we're going to put in a flywheel. So this big metal wheel that sits on top of the pump. And instead of a linear up and down motion, it has this circular motion. It's way harder to get going. Like that's a key thing about a flywheel, is that they're much harder to get initial momentum. Like actually when we got it going, my friend Luke and I were like standing on either side of it, like grabbing the handles and like really leaning into it. Like it took real effort to get it moving. But then the effort decreased over time, started to spin faster and faster. And then, we started to get more and more water coming out of the pump. So like taking this metaphor and then applying it to real world things, I thought was quite interesting. And in reading Good to Great, I was actually kind of frustrated that it was so high level, right? He talks about the flywheel for Amazon, and it blew my mind as, like in short, more scale leads to lower prices leads to more scale. There's more steps, but read Good to Great if you have. But like I struggled for years to put it in practice inside of ConvertKit because it was like the absolute highest altitude flywheel. And it wasn't until I really started to try to implement these like very detailed level flywheels that I started to get momentum.